I want to explore this for a second. So Gabe Kapler's been fired by the Giants, 888-957-9570. And one of the reasons I asked this question is because I want to explore this portion of it. The question was, when you heard that Gabe Kapler was fired today by the Giants, as a fan, how did it make you feel? Now, you could think of that immediately and go, oh, like he's asking about, the future of the Giants. I am, but I'm also asking, like, truly, how did it make you feel? Because what I see out there a lot is celebrating. And I know this. I know that there are a lot of people who think Gabe was a phony or disingenuous, hard to like. I've learned this in life. There are people who just rub some people the wrong way, and others aren't bothered by it at all. You and I have already had this talk. Gabe doesn't bother me. It just never hit me that way.
Yeah.
I found it funny sometimes. We're playful with the impersonation. He's different, and I would often argue San Francisco loves different. That's not what a manager's supposed to look like. Well, cool. Let's make the manager look different. I don't care about your burgers and black jeans unless you stink. So the last 2 months, it's not funny anymore. And I get that.
Yeah, last 2 years.
Well, yes, you could argue that for sure. There are reasons and different timing of all of that. They've been good for...
Comes down to results.
Yeah,
their results have been 3 games below 500 for the last 321 games.
Yes, in the end. Like, there were times this year where they were really good, then they were really, really, really bad.
Right.
And that's where we get here. I guess this is me getting to this point. This feels personal for a lot of people. Feels personal.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel baseball-ish. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Celebrate all you want. I get it. Giants needed to make a move. This is step one. Fine. I'm cool with it. But if you think the Giants got better today, this was not problem one, in my opinion.
But it's a problem. So
I guess.
I mean, whether or not you think that, many fans do think that. And maybe it's personal, although I don't know if it can be personal if you don't actually know the guy. But if you're a Giants fan and you look at Gabe Kapler and you think a certain way about him, and then he goes out for 2 straight years and his team is mediocre and they are dull, you can blame a number of different things and people and factors. And I laid out about 6 of the reasons that people can blame for the lack of fan interest, and Gabe Kapler might not be the preeminent problem with this team. And I'm with you in terms of the biggest problem with this team is not the manager, but something has to change. And ownership is not firing itself. And if the ownership likes, for the most part, what the president of baseball ops is doing, and they decide that they like him more than they like what the manager's doing, and something needs to change, then it becomes pretty easy to draw the line and figure out who is going to go. And I wonder how many of the coaches and the coaching staff then also lose their jobs and how much they change the nature of this coaching staff, because this coaching staff is markedly different than the one that Bruce Bochy had. Bruce Bochy had his 4 or 5 main confidants.
Couple guys, yeah.
Exactly.
Ron,
my
Tim, yeah.
And you know the guys.
Sure.
And, Bobo over at first. And, he's got Gardy down there in the bullpen.
Right.
And, he had like 5 or 6 guys. Kapler's got like 25 different coaches.
Gabe's got people in the parking lot. Make sure that people are parking inside the lines. Yeah.
And I joked earlier about a breathing coordinator. They have a breathing coordinator full-time on staff whose job is to help the team with their breathing.
Breathe.
I mean, it's just...
Well, it is a big deal, actually.
It's pretty much...
Funny that
it's
they
one of
have
the
a coach
few
for
things
it,
that's autonomous in life.
Well...
Heartbeat and breathing. And
I know, but you know what that... breath is much bigger
exactly.
than that.
Yes, but... you've got a breathing coach, and, I wonder how much this organization makes a turn away from Gabe Kapler's newfangled approach to managing.
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know if whoever comes in next is going to have say on all the people around them. If there are going to be fewer, do people hold over? I call that a WOTUS, by the way. Do people WOTUS? If you WOTUS, by the way, that means you just stay. Doesn't matter who the manager is, you just stay. So maybe there'll be some of that. But yeah, that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Listen, I'm not bothered by today at all. I'm not surprised by today. The Giants had to do something.
I'm surprised that today happened today.
Me too. Yes, I'll agree with you there.
Yeah.
I even thought Monday felt quick, but they beat Monday. So I'm not surprised by it. I'm not bothered by it. An organization had to do something. It became evident that they probably would not be able to do what they need to do without doing this. So from that perspective, I'm in. But there will not be a celebration until this is a better baseball team and a more interesting one. So if Gabe was holding that back in a certain way, then yes, thumbs up. I've yet to be convinced that that's really what was holding them back. We'll see. I'm interested to see what this plan was that Farhan just introduced to ownership that got the thumbs up.
Yes, and I think if you look at what is holding the Giants back, first and foremost, it is the 25 guys in the clubhouse. You 25 are not good enough. So where does that fall? That falls on Farhan Zaidi, but it also falls on Gabe Kapler because it's Gabe's job to take that 25-man group in the clubhouse and make them as good as they can be. And the 25 men in the clubhouse at times were great. They were 13 games above 500 just a couple of months ago. They were a game and a half back of the Dodgers in the NL West. As they came out of the All-Star break, they were hot, Mark. They won their first 5 on that road trip. They'd won 7 in a row going to the time before the All-Star break. They were cooking with Crisco, and then something happened. And when that something happened, the manager didn't do enough to right the ship, and I think that's ultimately what led us to today.
Shug in San Jose, Willard and Dibs. Let's keep going with as many of you as want to weigh in as possible. Gabe Kapler has been fired by the Giants. Hey, Shug, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy Friday. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I'm sad. Like, I like Kapler. He was given a Lunchable and expected to make filet mignon, man. Like, I honestly think it's Farhan's scapegoat, the limit on the pitch count and all that. I mean, I don't know. I'm sad. Like I said, I think it's Farhan's scapegoat. Like, if not Kapler, then who, you know?
Well, I mean, again, I look at it from the standpoint. Shug, thank you so much.
Thank you, Shug.
Look, it's not fair, but we're not here for fairness. So I sort of remove that whole thing. I know a lot of you are like, why Kapler? This is Farhan's fault. You can make that case. I would simply respond by saying, yeah, but that's not how this works. Farhan's above Gabe. Ownership hired Farhan. Farhan is a very, like it or not, very, very well-respected person.
Varies?
2 of them, and loud ones. Very well-respected person around Major League Baseball. Very, very. So does that give him a little extra slack? Yeah, I guess maybe. Or whatever it was he sat down and said to ownership, it worked. They may have looked at what he said and said, I don't buy it. You're out. You're both out. That could have happened. Whatever he said worked for them. And so when you're the boss, when you're the manager of the baseball team, and the baseball team goes sideways, you can't be surprised when it lands on your lap. Fairness, quite frankly, never came into this conversation. Nobody over there at 3rd and King sat down and went, all right, what would be a fair way for this to work out? No, they want your butt in the seat, and they want you happy. And he wasn't doing it. None of them were. So this is where it fell.
Yeah, but this is when it fell to me I think there's more to that story, and I wonder if we hear more about the when, not the why. We know the why, but the when. To me, the win is a little bit dirty. Unless Gabe Kapler had a conversation with Farhan and Gabe said, you know what, let's just do it today because I don't want to have to gut out these last 3 days.
Well, we're all here.
We're here and they're there and Bob is there. So I
don't know.
If that's the way, if Gabe said, you know what, let's do it now, then that makes me feel better about it. But if they just did him like this with 3 games left to go, it's dirty, it's unnecessary in my opinion, and it's a little classless. If If he got the ziggy on a Friday,
I wonder-
3 days short of the end of the year.
Listen, obviously you can feel however you feel. I'm so curious as to why, though. Like, why do the 3 days matter? I would argue this. Look, the way this was heading over the last 24 hours, yes or no, did it feel like everybody knew what was coming?
Yeah, I think it was starting to build.
Okay.
We had more reports and we had more conversations with more people saying, Tim Kawakami, he joined us a couple of days ago and he said, I wouldn't be so sure about this vote of confidence notion.
Good buddy of mine texted me last night at 6 o'clock. Went to high school with him at San Mateo. Hey, it seems that momentum is gaining for Kapler to be gone. Am I reading the tea leaves correctly? And I got a lot of that.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I answered, yep. So, if that's where it was last night at 6 o'clock, how does that sound by 5 o'clock Sunday? In other words, I don't know this, but I could argue that you're feeding Gabe to the wolves if you do wait until Monday, because if we're already in a spot where the drumbeat is loud and you know what's coming, like letting Gabe twist in the wind all weekend for a Dodgers series means he's got to fend all of that off from every direction. When you know, you know.
Well, because they built the fire.
Fine.
The ownership goes out and has an interview with Susan Slusser.
That's fair.
Log on the fire.
Yep.
The president of the baseball ops goes on the competitor and basically throws the manager into the dumpster. But you did this.
Okay,
you didn't have to have you gave him the drumsticks and you gave him the drum for the drum beat.
I don't know. If
you didn't have to do that.
If you were sitting there having wine with Gabe, and we know he loves his red wine.
We have coffee together often.
Fantastic. Sit down, get a latte.
Tomorrow I will. I guarantee you he's out there at our spot.
Very little to do over the next few days, as it sounds. But you sit down with Gabe and have a latte and ask him, do you think that Gabe is going to be like, I really don't mind that I was fired, but the fact that they did it on a Friday before the Dodgers series. Like,
I'll walk up to him and he'll have his AirPods in, and I'll say, what are you listening to? And he'll say, Christina Aguilera, Dirty. Because he got done dirty.
Who cares if he missed the last 3 games?
It's just the optics of it.
When you know, you know.
You fire somebody in the middle of the season when you absolutely have to do it in that moment. They mismanaged this. They could have worked this thing all the way through to the end of the season and then done it.
Which does what?
It shows him a little bit more respect. This is disrespectful.
Interesting.
That's just believe me, as a guy, I've been fired in a number of different ways. When I was 15, I might have only been 14, my boss called my dad. They were best friends. Art Shaddy, rest in peace. Tell your son he's not welcome here anymore.
Wow.
I just couldn't handle the dough machine.
Good Lord.
It wasn't like that.
That's kind of a classless way to do it.
So my dad comes in, he's like, yeah, Daniel, you're not... Don't worry about
day.
Don't worry about working tomorrow.
It's a Daniel day.
It was a total Daniel day. I was making $2.35 an hour. I've been fired in a number of different ways. So
let's go to Teach in the City. Hey,
it's not funny.
It
Fired
really,
like 7
it really
times.
is.